Alright guys, welcome back to my channel, and this is going to be the benchmark video that I was talking about. Now there are quite a lot of issues with this game, with this particular port, and I'll get into all of those. And so maybe even if you don't have a 1050 Ti, you may be able to gain some information and decide what kind of settings do you want on your PC. Because, spoiler alert, once again, a Ubisoft game is extremely CPU heavy. Like right in the beginning, you might be able to see as I am in the menu and I am, changing settings and all that, my CPU usage is around 45%. That's how bad this is. So anyway, let's just get started. So right in the beginning, it's low settings, and of course, one thing I wanted to clear up right in the beginning is that every single preset that I'm going to use, I'm going to use medium textures. That is because every time you actually want to select a different set of textures, you need to restart your game, and that would take me a long time because this thing loads for a while. So that is why I'm using medium textures. Now of course, if you are just here because you have a 1050 Ti, just use medium textures because that's the best thing you can do. Because with medium textures and with my optimal settings, I was using about 3.5 gigabytes of the 4 gigabytes of video memory that I have available. So yeah, a 1050 Ti has 4 gigs. With medium settings, with medium textures, you should be good. Moving to the actual benchmark, which like you are seeing some gameplay of it. So of course this is low, and as you can see the FPS is actually not bad. I mean, in some instances it can even go up to like 45, but in general it's definitely playable. It's somewhere around 30s, they're like 35 to 40-ish FPS, and it keeps going up and down. But one thing you might be able to see here is that my GPU is being used completely, so almost completely. It's using 94% of my GPU, 94, 95, and it even climbs higher up as we go further. And currently the CPU usage is sitting at like 76, 77, sometimes dropping down to 60s, but it's never really going above that. But that will change when we move on to the next one. Right, so now moving on to the medium settings, so the medium preset. So once again, the only change I made is that I put the texture resolution to medium. It was low on the other part. I would definitely say put the texture on medium because it doesn't really matter. As long as you have the VRAM for it, texture usually does not affect performance all that much. So just blindly put it there. No issues there. So anyway, so now once again you might be able to see even in the menus I'm getting like 40-50% CPU usage, which is ridiculous. But anyway, we go back to the game, and now as you can see, now I am at again 98%, 99% usage. Sometimes yes, it is dipping down a bit, and these sort of things happen. Especially this is a mobile GPU, so of course on a desktop 1050 Ti, expect around 3 to 4% better performance than a laptop 1050 Ti, which I have. Now, I would say the performance is pretty much what I expected. Now, keep in mind, this is running on a proper 1080p resolution. Like there is absolutely no downscaling or anything. I'm not using the render scaling setting at all. I will get to that in the end of the video because there are some interesting things I have to say about that. Now this is the medium settings. Now we'll move on to the high settings. Now once again, it's the same drill. You can see some of the things that happen in the high preset. The only thing I've kept the same are the texture resolution. That is still at medium. Now let's go actually into the game and let's see what happens. Now in this section I drive a car and the FPS kind of goes down. But even in general, we were still getting somewhat playable FPS if you don't mind playing at 30 FPS. Now, as you can see, the GPU is completely filled out. This is obviously GPU bound because right now I'm running at high, which I am running at 1050 Ti, and so high is not supposed to be something achievable with this card. So yeah, this is pretty much running on high. It is still very much playable. Yes, during driving you are kind of getting a few FPS drops here and there, So like sometimes it drops below to 27. I think the lowest I saw was 27. But usually it stays above 30. And if you're someone who is satisfied playing this at 30 FPS, then definitely go for the high settings. Maybe tweak something here and there, and you are set. And as you can see, the GPU usage is still pretty much that locked at 98%. Now it has dropped down a bit because I was getting around 37, 38 FPS in the medium settings and around 40 in the low settings. So yeah, this is still a very playable experience at high. But the same can't be said for the next preset. So now this is very high. So now very high, as you can see all the settings there. The only thing, again, as I said before, the only thing I have really changed, actually over here I didn't have to change anything. For high I didn't have to change anything. For very high I needed to change the texture resolution again, because of course it put the texture resolution at high, which I can't actually do. So yeah, right now at very high this was working fine, just about fine actually. So yeah, when I say fine, I mean with the textures and all that. Now I, of course, again, as I said before, I put the textures on medium here. If you actually use the high textures, it is going to go over budget. So yeah, this is not as good. Now, as you can see, while running, the FPS is already dipping down to like the low 20s sometimes, and even at its highest point it is reaching 30, and that is the highest point it can get to. And of course the GPU is maxed out. I mean, at this point, why do we even bother? So yeah, now one thing I want you guys to keep in mind is that my laptop can actually run this much better than what it is running right now, because as you can see, the temperatures, my temperatures are hovering around 93, 94 degrees for the CPU and around 89, 90 degrees for the GPU. Now the reason for that is that one of my fans is defective, so I had to disconnect the fan, and so I am basically only running it on one fan, which does take a toll. Like usually I get like with my custom overclocks, I get around 1800 and something megahertz overclocked with the boost clock. The boost clock goes up to 1800 something. So yeah, it will be slightly better. That is why I said if you're running this on a desktop GPU, you will probably get around 2 to 3% more performance improvements. So this is very high. Now moving on from very high to ultra, because of course this is a benchmark and why not? I mean, we all know it's not going to work. We all know it's not going to be playable, but it's worth a shot. And I took that shot and I don't regret anything. Now the interesting thing is the RAM usage pretty much stays near that 7 gigabyte limit throughout the entire thing. So I never faced a problem with me running out of RAM. So that's good, because Watch Dogs 2 had that problem where the RAM being used kind of spiked up eventually. So yeah, right now even on Ultra, my entire graphics memory is not being used. So that's fine. That's really good actually. So there's that. And now, as you can see, now I'm dropping it down to what can be known as ultra low. And this is where my problems actually start with this game. Now, in these ultra low settings, as you can see on your screen right now, you would expect that when my CPU is being used like 77%, maybe my CPU usage will spike a bit because the FPS will go up, and my GPU usage will also spike. So like it will stay somewhere near at least 80%. But that is not what happens. What ends up happening is that your GPU is only being used around 60% and your CPU still stays at the exact same level. So what happens is you are basically getting the same frames per second at lower resolutions at as much as you were getting in the higher resolutions. I don't know if this is a bug. I don't know if the patch tomorrow is going to fix it. But this is a bug that is in the game currently right now, that your GPU is not even being touched upon. Like seriously, it is not even being touched. 50% GPU utilization. In what world is that an optimized game? Unbelievably bad and shoddy optimization. And you can't just tell me that this is just with this one model. Surely this is happening across many cards. like many lower end cards. If you are on a higher end card, if you are someone who is running it without any sort of render resolution thing, you don't need to bump down your resolution at all, then good luck to you, nice for you. But for people who are barely able to run it on entry level hardware, we need these sort of options to work. And this is really disheartening that the one thing that actually should bump up my FPS is not doing anything. In fact, sometimes my GPU usage is actually falling down to around 38-39%. And that is ridiculously bad optimization. This is why I would say the game is poorly optimized. Now, they can fix this. They can easily fix this with some things. Of course, they have to figure it out. I can't do it. I haven't programmed games yet, so I don't know. I am sure they can fix it, and maybe the patch tomorrow that where they say they are improving PC performance, maybe it will address this issue. But so far, this is an issue that I have been facing. Like, I should theoretically at least run this game on like 45-50 FPS when I put down my settings by such a huge margin. But I am just not getting that performance improvement. So at the end of the video, what would I suggest you to do? What I would suggest you to do is just use this opportunity to, play this game at 1080p, because even if you drop the settings, even if you put the render resolution down, it's going to achieve absolutely nothing, at least not yet, not as the game is right now. So the best thing you can do is just go for it, go 1080p. If you have further headroom in your GPU, and this is, by the way, this is not just specific to 1080 Ti. If you have any other GPU and you are seeing that your GPU is not completely being utilized, turn up one of those settings. Because I don't know why, but this game just doesn't utilize GPU properly. Now, maybe they'll fix it with a patch, maybe not. This is Ubisoft we are talking about. Their optimization is more often than not shoddy at best. So yeah, that's where we are at. Now, this is where I'll end this video. If you guys did like my content, then definitely consider pressing that like button. Do subscribe to my channel for more content, because of course more Watch Dogs Legion content is coming. I mean, I hate the performance of the game, but I'm actually loving the game so far, because I've roamed around a little bit. I was profiling NPCs and all that. As you might have seen during the entirety of this gameplay, I was profiling many NPCs. I plan to recruit them. So yeah, do stay tuned to my channel for more fun stuff, and I leave you guys with it. So peace.